money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Customer, clientele. I was broke, that was last year. Getting money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Benjamin, nothing less. I was broke, that was last year. Don't change 'em. I never switched up. Been down since day one. Stay social. People change them. I never switched up. Social.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dope Black Thoughts Live. My name is Kevin Cox.
I'm Cleveland King.
What's going on, Cleveland? How you doing, my brother?
Hanging out, man. You know, I went to Juneteenth. It was interesting this weekend. It seems to be hijacked by the LGBTQ. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Plus, right?
Plus,
yeah. Yes. The community was interchangeable down there. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't ready, man. I just needed to be more prepared. I do understand, and I'm understanding of it, but there was some elements I just wasn't ready for.
Hey, look, you know, from what I understand, in the LGBTQIA plus community, there's a pretty harsh debate about having no kink in Pride. You know, just saying, look, you know, we want people to support us and you know, allow us to live, right? Allow us to live and work and be part of society. So let's not put all of our most private and intimate, you know, details onto them. We just want acceptance, you know, as human beings. And I think that's probably the path of least resistance.
I agree.
You know,
I
do have an issue though.
What's the issue?
Have an issue though. Don't step on Juneteenth. You know, like where the intersections, you know, exist. Cool. I'm cool with that. But don't step on Juneteenth, man. You know, that's us. But you know, we have LGBTQ members in our community as well. But don't let it become, you know, more Pride than Juneteenth on Juneteenth. You know, can we please have Juneteenth, because that was Juneteenth before Pride was there. You know, so I can feel both sides of that. And I probably am leaning more towards no kink in Pride, just so we can, you know, celebrate the community and stay solid and everything. Because I'm inclusive, you know. Hey, look, you know, your personal thing is your personal thing. But at the same time, like, I don't spray my kink out there in public events.
What does kink mean to you, so the audience can understand what I mean?
Kink to me is like, you know, it's the non-PG portion of my sexuality. You know, the part it gets R-rated.
Are the X's, man? What you're talking about?
R to X, you know, like, you know, when we start getting non-kid friendly. Now, look, I was in LA, so I went to Juneteenth out here at Lamert Park, a historic park, right? And so which Juneteenth celebration did you go to?
I went to the one in Wilton on the 5 Points, man.
Okay, so you went to, you know, Denver,
you know,
5 Points?
When the lower extremities are so exposed or completely exposed, I just don't think that's something for a family environment. And I saw that on the men and the female side. And I just, if that's the kink you're talking about, yeah, it definitely was R-rated. That wasn't PG at all. And I was thinking, boy, you're just walking around and you want people to see these things. And, you know, here in Denver, so Pride Week is the following weekend. So why can't we have some separation, you know?
Yeah, and look, you know, rocking a hard place, right? Like I want to support and all that. And so, you know, but good Lord, I think put your genitals away in public, you know, and maybe, you know, I'm not going to say be conservative, because one, I don't believe that all social constructs are of the utmost importance. If you're a nudist, by all means do that. But I think also respecting other people's children and families and, you know, indecent exposure and whatnot is a real thing. I think there's some sort of a balance that can be struck. And I'm not trying to stay too politically correct about it, just because my personal opinion is, yeah, don't get too kinky around my kids. So that was going on in 5 Points, right? Because I'm gonna feel away. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna feel away about it if you know, if you're out there around my kids.
I was feeling some kind of way. Just because you see kids around and you see everything, and I'm like, wow, Huh. Okay.
Like I'm a trucker, I drive trucks for a living. Now I'm a truck driving instructor, but there's a way that truckers talk, right?
There is.
And not around kids, bro. Calm that stuff down. Ease up. You're around the 5-year-old, the 3-year-old. Can't have them talking like you like that. Talking like you when you're talking like that. So you make a family friendly version. So that was in 5 points, right? So flash forward to Inglewood, and hey, look. First of all, I loved it. Inglewood, I put so much stuff up on Facebook. Y'all know, if y'all follow me or follow DBT Live, you recognize I don't get on Facebook. I do it for the show, right? The show is, to me, is a public service. It's cathartic for me. It makes me feel good. But I don't get on social media. I'm not one of those people that partakes in social media all the time. But I posted so much about that Juneteenth festival. There was 4 stages for live performers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Local artists?
Yeah, local community artists. One of them, I think the headliner for it was Kamasi Washington. Now, I've recently married into Kamasi Washington's family, but Kamasi he's recently performed on the Tonight Show.
Really?
He's big time. Oh yeah. So
he's a rapper?
No, I don't want to hip hop and R&B. I can't really call it. I think it's probably more on the R&B side. Just musical talent. Look him up, Kamasi, and his likeness is on DBT Live. Took pictures with him, but he's really a member of the family. But also, check out his material. Check him out on the Tonight Show. Check out his album. He's toured all over the place. He's blowing up. Genuine guy too. Had a conversation and just walked around and enjoyed the festivities. Beforehand. Wasn't too good. I'm talking about 2 in the afternoon. He was going up at like 8, so he was out there for like the day with the family and the baby.
Wow,
enjoying
hanging out with everybody before that's dope, man. I like that.
Absolutely,
just
absolutely.
like
Down to earth. So I felt that vibe, and then here was my issue, because I have a gripe. It was just weed smoke everywhere. Clouds of weed smoke. Like, I am a proponent of marijuana legalization. If you are an adult, your brain is fully developed, and you want to partake, all power to you. I have no issue with you doing that. Maybe not where the smoke is blowing on my baby. I don't know. Maybe we need to have some logistical understanding. We'll say we're going to keep it PG. We're gonna not partake. We're going to have a family portion of it until 5 in the afternoon.
Was
After 5,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
So it wasn't in designated areas. It was the whole place.
No, and and how well would that work to say that we'll have you all smoke weed in a designated area?
Really? They do it for smokers.
That would have been weird. Yeah, they do it for smokers, and a lot of smokers, they felt ostracized by that. Look, it's not my issue. I do not partake. I keep a clean system because I am a truck driver.
Truck driver.
Yep. If you hear that work, if you're spying on my
clean, man. And haven't had none at all. Didn't even get any contact. No contact. Barely smelled it. Just a hint.
Just a hint. Just enough to make my spider senses go off.
Time to leave. Yep, I get you, man.
Exit stage left. It
was just.
That's how I knew. That's how I knew to leave. But seriously, I think we could just have an understanding. And we're talking about LA, so parking atrocious, absolutely atrocious. Parking's atrocious anyway. And the thing was, it was so big that it made traffic worse because they took over the street around the park. So when you get like within a 3-block radius, that part's cordoned off too for the festival. So when you're at the festival, you're walking on actual street, with booths and everything. So, it was beautiful. And at the same time, logistics should have been discussed in advance. Don't just say, hey, be here at 4:00. You want to see this artist. If you want to see Smino, be here at 4. You want to see Masego, come here at 6. You want to see Kamasi, come here at 8. Also say, you're going to want to stop. These are the streets that are going to be the barriers for parking. Park from here and out and walk in, because and once we got in, it was actually spacious and there was plenty of space for people to walk. It got congested in some areas, but everything was fine. I just wish we would have just logistically, just like you said, I don't want to see your genitals out around my children. I don't want my children catching a contact. Maybe not around my baby.
Yeah, that's right. So do they have the pride thing at I'm sure they do in LA, right?
Yeah.
Is it the following week, just like it is here?
You know, and not to be a complete non-ally, I don't know. You know, I was about to turn around and go home from Juneteenth because of the parking. So I'm serious. I was really frustrated. The parking was so atrocious that it actually kind of gave me some anxiety. Like at some points you had to stop, and people just had to back up, and it was like cars are coming at you from every angle. I'm like, this is like nightmarish. So yeah, definitely we needed to know.
There was no police out there to control.
I saw one cop. I saw one traffic cop, like, you know, with the whistle waving people and whatnot, and that person wasn't helping anything. It was just one, literally just one, and there was like 8 different intersections around that park that needed assistance. And honestly, there should have been like an alert. Hey, look, if you want to come here to Leimert Park Juneteenth Festival, you know, these are the streets for parking, and maybe, I don't know, God forbid, you know, assign some lots. Talking crazy.
At Juneteenth in Colorado, they had one of the mini stations parked out. Have you seen them? They're like a building that's parked like it's like a RV on steroids. It's huge. So they actually had a mini station, and there was probably 100 cops. It was unbelievable. Well, it was safe.
I bet it was.
For a police officer, they were everywhere. It was amazing. So,
man, you know how they secure us? You know how they keep us safe?
Yeah, they
Good Lord.
Us in with the white cop. No,
good. Man, so I was looking at pictures on DBT on our Facebook, and I just looked back at some of the oldest photos that were put up. And one of the first events that Marcus and I went to before anybody else was affiliated with us, it was an event in Denver called 1,000 Black Men Lead On. And I'm guessing it was like, so you can complete the sentence, like lead on, you know, civil rights, lead on, you know, engineering, or lead, you know. So there was like 1,000 Black men, and they were talking about, you know, just different social issues and whatnot. Tons of elected officials. It was downtown Denver. But we went there. It was inspirational, seeing all these people and all their different, like, you know, the different fraternities, different groups, you know, your Shriners and whatnot. That was super cool. And I was a little bit outraged because there was a couple of officers, you know, across the street, you know, just kind of camped out, like on some just in case things go wrong. And I zoomed in, and those pictures on Facebook, it was like 4 cars, you know, like, or like 1 or 2 cars in like a pickup truck or something. And they were all hanging out. And we're literally elected officials and community activists and community organizations, you know, talking about how we're going to help the community, and, you know, awesome, let's make contact with each other. And then the cops are over there watching, you know, I don't know if they had binoculars, but it felt like they, you know.
Too many held them together. We got to stop this.
You know, nowadays you have so much Zoom on your phone, you know, they could just be holding the phone and zoomed in.
You're right. That's funny, man. I wonder what happened to that event. Is it still going on? I mean, that sounds exciting. I'd like to be a part of that.
You know, I think Omar put me onto it. Yeah, I think Omar put me onto it.
Community events are, doesn't he?
Doesn't he though? It's almost like he's out there in these streets.
He should run for office. That's for sure.
If anybody should be the mayor of Aurora, it probably should be Omar. Yep. He has his finger on the pulse. A little bit of that right there.
He knows what's going on in Aurora. He knows what's going on all the time, and he's part of the community. Yeah.
Shameless plugs, though. You know what I mean? And I don't care. Like, I think also with the debauchery that went on in Adams County in that Aurora election, he probably should be the rightful mayor. But, you know, the system worked as it did, and, you know, it was reliable to a degree. And, you know, I don't want to go all conspiracy theory on it, but some stuff happened that shouldn't have been happening.
Sure.
It's Aurora. It is what it is. And I mean, look, he got within 100, you know, a couple of hundred votes of a incumbent congressperson.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's
first time running for an elected office.
And his name's out there now, and people know who he is. And next time should be a lot easier than this time. Was it every 2 years? Every 4 years?
4 years, I believe. And he quietly was the president of the NAACP for some years too. He wasn't even out there. Yeah, he wasn't throwing his weight around like that. He was out there actually showing up to, you know, emergencies in the Black community. You know, he was that person you could call. When things happen, Omar's one of those people that they call. So, same thing with Marcus, co-founder here at DBT. Issues happened. Marcus was on the scene. A lot of the people that we deal with were out there in these streets when the real stuff happened, and not just waiting for a camera to show up. So it's kind of hard to find that balance, because some people, they just come when the cameras are out. And
there's a lot of people that come when the cameras come out. You're right. They're not.
Yeah, like make it to 3 different political events at the same time. I come early for that one, take pictures, go to this one, take pictures, leave, and go to the other one at the last minute, take pictures with people, and then be out. Like, wait, those were all 7 to 8 o'clock. How'd you make it to all of them?
Man, you schooled me on that. I like that one, man. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah,
because you go to all of them at the same time.
Yeah, you're there. You went, you showed your face.
Yeah.
And it's better to show up a little, but it's better to show up for a little bit than to not show up at all, right?
You're right. And then they could say you were there. He was everywhere. He's been all over the state.
You care. You care to more than people that weren't there. So there's that.
That is true, man.
So, hey, let's talk about these gas prices, bro. Talk about these gas prices. So look, I'm out here the last.
How much is it out there?
I paid $6.09 for gas at Costco.
At Costco.
At Costco, I paid $6.09.
How much is diesel?
Oh man, diesel's getting close to $7 right now, depending where you go.
Wow.
Diesel owner operators, I know they got to be hurting, man. Here's the thing, and I don't want to go too deep off into economic theory because I am no economist, but this is unchecked capitalism. Biden released millions upon millions of barrels of oil. The price per barrel is the same as it was many years ago, 3-5 years ago. It was around $118 a barrel. It's $118 a barrel right now, but the price is double. I'm around a lot of conservatives, being a driving instructor. I'm around a lot of conservative people, and they're like, oh man, Biden just, oh goodness gracious. And I'm like, gas costs or oil costs the same price as it did, during your favorite president's term.
Really?
And the refineries refuse to refine it because they want synthetic demand. It's synthetic demand. They're creating demand. They just won't refine it and make more gas. So there's plenty of oil. The oil costs the same amount, but they won't refine it. So there's less gas, so they can charge double the price.
Wow. And then blame it on something that's not real. This is
absolutely.
I don't know, what do they blame it on? The war? They blame it on the war and everything else.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Blame it on you. Oh man, Ukraine, bro. Exxon is in Baytown, Texas. What are you talking about, Ukraine? Exxon's by my mom's house. Ain't no bombs over there.
Wow, man, that's crazy though. It's high in Texas too, isn't it? Gas is just high everywhere.
Gas is high, but of course it's not as high as it is over here. We don't have as many refineries over here. Texas is packed full of refineries, so I'm sure it's cheaper in Texas. I don't know. I don't keep track of prices everywhere, but I'm sure it's some of the highest prices here, right? Everything's more expensive in the LA area. But
makes you want to buy a Tesla or take a bike, right?
Definitely missed my bike, dude. I left my bike in Colorado, man. Oh my goodness. It wasn't quite big enough for me.
Really? I think there's some bikes in LA, man. I don't know, but I think you might find.
Yeah, there are. They charge for those things though, man.
Yeah, for your size, I can only imagine.
Thank you.
Man. That's like
I'm having a personal recession. Good Lord.
You're a trucker, man. Truckers make all the money, dude. Especially instructors, right?
No, bro. No, we're working on it.
Instructors make pretty. I actually have a client that's an instructor. He's very happy about his job. He says it's better than driving. Is it?
It is better than driving. Yes. It's scary when you got first-time drivers. I had some first-time drivers like 3 times in the last 2 weeks. And I'm training them how to drive a stick and how to maneuver a truck, upshift and downshift. Yeah.
All trucks are sticks, right?
Not anymore. They're becoming.
I thought they were all sticks, and they got like 20 gears. Is that what it is?
No. It's okay. So the average big sleeper cab truck is a 10-speed. So it's just like a regular car, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and then it has a splitter underneath the handle. You split it up to the top gears, and it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, so
yeah.
So you could go 4 to 8 by just splitting it, or you got to slowly go.
It's a shift, so you got to take it out, split it up, and then go. You need the speed though. You're not gonna want to do that. Your car doesn't do that. That would be horrible. You know, it would bear down on the engine. These are the idiosyncrasies that we have to work through with students. They're like, "Can I go from 7th to 4th?" I'm like, "Are you going slow enough to go down to 4th gear? Do you just want to blow up your motor?" Right? And think about it, when you shifted a car, you didn't go from fifth speed to 2nd speed unless you slowed way down. That sort of thing.
That's interesting. Never thought about that.
Yeah. And they never wrap their head around, you have to double clutch. You have to clutch out of the gear and then clutch into the next gear. You can't just hit the clutch one time. It won't work.
Do you still got the things on the bottom of the car where the clutch is? Is a clutch like that?
Yeah, the clutch is like that.
So you press
like I'm saying, yeah, you hit it once, pull it out, and then you disengage, and then you hit it again and put it into the next gear.
Wow, it's more to it than I thought about driving a truck.
But so you're like, man, that's got to blow your leg out. You got to clutch twice as much, and you got twice as many gears. That's 4 times as much clutching. That's got to be horrible in traffic. No, we float gears. We don't even hit the clutch. What you do is you rev it up to where you normally would shift, and you put it onto the next gear. And when the RPMs match up with the road speed, the RPMs will line up, and it'll fall into that next gear.
It automatically goes into a gear.
It will fall straight in there. You put it onto the gear and just put a little pressure, and when that RPM speed matches the road speed, boom, it'll fall right in. So the fastest speed you can probably the 10th speed, you want to get into that at about 55 miles an hour. If you accelerate the 55 in 9th gear, when you hit 55 and you pull it out and you put it onto fifth gear, your RPMs need to go down, and then it's going to fall in because that's its cruising speed. It will fall into that gear.
Man, the truckers I see go way faster than 55 and 10.
That's just where you shift into it, and it goes up from there.
And then after 55, you can go 100 miles an hour. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Oh, they go up there. Depends if it's a company truck or a personal. If you're owner operator, man, those things are tuned up, boy. It depends on how big they open them up. But like if you work for a big company, such as like a JB Hunt or whatever, they're automatically in eco mode. One, they're automatic because you ain't going to be hot rodding nothing. Then they're in eco mode.
Oh, that's interesting. They ought to have that in cars.
They do. They do. They have them in cars, and people turn it off.
Maybe they don't notice it.
People like sport mode or regular mode, but put it in eco mode, it takes away your horsepower, your torque. It saves gas, saves diesel. So it's boring to drive that, but it's automatically in that. And then also they'll put a governor on it so it can't go over a certain speed. And that's
really
very so the lower you govern it, the lower your insurance rates are. So
wow,
absolutely. The cheapest companies, they will govern it like, dude, I was at Pepsi for 5 years and our trucks were governed at 57 miles an hour. That is hell on earth.
Is there like some kind of stop? Is it stop at 57? Or can you do something and push it out of that?
You can do nothing about that. It's
You're stuck at 57 max.
Yes. Man. And you're just bouncing. Because you don't realize how bumpy the road is until you're just coasting at 57 miles an hour. Drive from across town, an hour-long trip at 57. That's like almost an hour and a half now. It's crazy. It's so painful. You want to fall asleep behind the wheel so much. And so, that sort of thing.
Have you ever, as a driver, were you ever fallen asleep behind the wheel? As a driver, not as a driver.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of time. And, you get those power blinks and you teleport forward, like maybe a mile. And you're like, oh, and then, you're like, oh, I'm scared now. I woke up and I turned the radio up loud. I rolled the window down. I'm singing along with my song. Sleep is there's no substitute for sleep. That's all it comes down to. So sometimes you got to pull it over, grab you 30 minutes, lay your head on that steering wheel, do what you got to do. Don't crash. I mean, what do you want to do? You want to crash? Or you want to live?
That's pretty frightening. Some of the truckers are scared, when they get behind you, or God forbid someone cuts the truck off. That happens all the time. is a big issue, isn't it? If they cut you off.
Yep.
I mean, it's really hard to stop.
Yeah, especially if you're loaded, bad weather. Denver, ice and snow. Get cut off in the ice and snow, it could be a wrap. So we're always slower. If there's a 50-50 chance, if it's a coin flip as to who's at fault, the trucker loses because you have a commercial driver's license. You're a professional driver. Wow. You should have slowed down and maintained more stopping distance. You couldn't stop. Why didn't you slow down in advance, just in case? So, but there's a lot of
driver's dead, so everybody loses, right? You're just gonna run right over the car. There's no, the trucker's fault. Well, the driver's dead. I mean,
but if they survive, they just want to sue the lights out of you. So nowadays, another thing that they do, cameras. There's a camera on the dash facing outwards, the camera facing in some corporations. So, like I worked at Cisco Denver. There's a camera facing out, facing in. It's always recording, but it's always deleting as well, right? So it keeps a 5-second buffer for what's going on inside and like a 3-second buffer for what's going on outside, or the opposite. I'm sorry, 5 seconds outside and 3 seconds inside. So say you hit a big bump, or you hit the brakes really hard, or you steer, you jar the steering or something like that, or if it senses a collision. If it senses a collision or anything like that, it's going to give you a 7-second clip as to what happened. It'll show outside with audio, inside with audio, and it'll show a graph of your accelerator pedal and your brake pedal and your speed, a live feed of your speed.
They should have those in cars.
It's a video black box.
They should have those in cars, man. That probably
pretty
stop
much
a whole lot of accidents. People, they're texting. They're texting. Hope to God they don't do that with the trucks, but
hey.
Hope they don't do that with the trucks, man. But
you can't see what's going on because their windowsill is like 8 feet up in the air, but I can see. These guys are riding by like this
with a truck fully loaded,
tankers pulling doubles, 2 trailers hooked up to them, 3 trailers. They have double headphones on, and look.
Oh, why do they're not listening? They don't know what's going on. Wow. I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking.
And I've never done that.
Headphones
Any
on.
of that. Dude, I'm telling you, man, you get comfortable, man. I mean, there's a constant, that's the thing, like I'm talking about unchecked capitalism. I have to get comfortable going down the side of a mountain in ice and snow. I have to. At some point, that's going to be required of me to do. For instance, when I ran for school board, I was working at the post office, and they would not allow me to campaign anywhere near their property or during work hours. It's called the Hatch Act. It's a federal law that you're not allowed to campaign when there's anything work related, showing anything that says USPS. So if I have my shirt on, I'm breaking a federal law and whatnot. So I left there. I started driving temp for a temp company, and they were like, "Oh, it's Christmas time. Nobody wants to work. Guess where you're going? You're going to the mountains." They were sending me from Denver to Grand Junction for the entire holiday season.
You got to pass the passes and everything, right? Like scary passes. They're scary in a car.
Yes, they are, sir.
It is in a truck, man.
I got Omar on here. Let me bring Omar in.
Hey, how y'all doing?
How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Great, brother.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I was actually enjoying my lesson on. Let me see. I was listening on the way in. Truck driving.
Yeah.
Juneteenth.
I was learning about truck driving, and then we talked about your future a little bit.
My future.
Yeah.
Well, I'm more worried about the future of my better half, who's running for Arapahoe County Commissioner District 4. So
congratulations! Is that this year?
Yeah. Her primary is this Tuesday coming up, and
right.
Yeah, that's right. Doing all we can to get her elected, and that's my focus. After that, then we'll make some decisions about some other stuff.
Well, what's
let's
her
remind
name
everybody,
so
go vote.
Who it is we're voting for?
Well, first, everybody needs to exercise their right to vote. I don't know how old everybody is on this platform right now, but I shared this on the Brother Jeff show earlier, where my grandmother used to dress up in her Sunday best and dress me up in my suit. And I was like about 5, 6 years old. And she would walk us to the polling place where it was other brothers and sisters dressed up in their suits, Sunday best, to go vote. My grandmother was, this was in Los Angeles, California, and my grandmother was from Vicksburg, Mississippi. So she knew what it was like to live under Jim Crow. The difference was my grandmother wasn't afraid of Jim Crow or the Jim Crow system. She was the type that believed in that right to bear arms. Okay. And the reason why she moved is because she knew if someone messed with one of her kids, it was going down. But let's fast forward. Because we know that people have paved the way for us, we need to go out and vote. That's true. Now, on the personal tip, I'm going to say Regina Edmondson, who's running for Arapahoe County Commissioner, District 4, Nancy Jackson seat. I think she'll make an amazing commissioner if elected, because she's born and raised in Aurora. She was born and raised in Colorado, but was mostly raised in Aurora.
Is that the other half?
Yeah, that's the other half. The other half of me.
So we know who we're voting for.
Oh yeah, it's the other half of me. And
that's not the same last name that you have, sir. So
No. It's not the same last name, but that's the other half, the better half, the more beautiful half. And I would even argue the more intelligent half.
I might not disagree.
For those that know her, and one of the proudest accomplishments I've seen her do was during COVID, because she's a caterer and all her stuff got shut down. She partnered with the Village Exchange Center and the Stanley Marketplace, and they fed close to 2,000 people a day.
Oh, wow, that's amazing, man.
And she works with Brother Jeff on MLK and a couple of other holidays where they feed close to 2,000 people and frontline workers and things of this nature. So just having that heart and compassion, I support her. But there's a lot of people on that ballot, and you need to exercise your right to vote. Whether you vote, I would want you to vote for Regina, but whether you vote for Regina or not, our people have been through hell to have this right to vote.
That's a fact.
I'm off my stump. All right, I'm sorry.
All right, man, that was a good stump. I like that. Regina Edmondson, huh? Right?
Yeah, Regina Edmondson. So did y'all hear about the Supreme Court justice just about making it legal for you to be able to carry a handgun? They overturned the 100-year law in New York, where you had to have a permit and all these special permits to carry a gun. They said it's unconstitutional. They ruled on it this morning, shared their ruling this morning. And so there's an argument or a debate where do you have to have a license to carry a handgun?
Wow. So we can all roll out here like the Wild Wild West.
Man, you can go out here and do your thing. Now, each state has their different. Colorado has you have to have a carry license. Other cities have it, but the question is how that law may be written could be in violation of what the Supreme Court justice just ruled. So so it's something to follow. Some states had trigger laws similar to how they have trigger laws with abortion, where if the Supreme Court ruled a certain way, these laws automatically are triggered. So,
oh goodness, I hadn't heard about those guys. Now that sounds like something, dude. This is the trap door that we fall through when we say, you know what, I don't get off into all that. You know, I ain't too worried about all that. You know, presidents ain't gonna change nothing. And then 3 Supreme Court justices come rolling in. You weren't worried about Trump. You know what? All those presidents, they weren't interested in the black community. I tell you what, nobody else was going to bang these Supreme Court justices out like that. And, you know, maybe you should have been campaigning and sending money against Mitch McConnell, too. you know, all the way out there to his state. I can't remember what state. Kansas? What is he? Kansas or Arkansas? Whatever, wherever he is. But you know, this is where these are the trap doors. The trap was already built underneath there, and then don't get involved. You know, don't get the backing that everybody needs, and then boom, and now it's. I have an issue with it. I have an issue with it because I just remember historically we had a Wild West. Didn't go that great.
There was
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this. One, we need to pay attention to what the Supreme Court justice, what the Supreme Court is doing, what they're saying, their rulings. And President Obama warned us, said it wasn't about who's getting elected. It's about who they'll be able to select for the Supreme Court. And during that election, a lot of people were saying, hey, this is not about Trump. This is about who's going to be in place to select the next couple of Supreme Court justices that can begin to overturn legislation that has been on the books for years. And we're beginning to see that play out now. Trump only had one term, but his legacy is living on today.
That is true. You might get a second term, unfortunately.
Well, you know, it may have a second term, but if there are people who don't agree with his policies, they need to get out and start registering. We need to get on that Stacey Abrams train. We need to register young people to vote and get them out there to cast their vote. First, you register them, then you got. In Colorado, you're almost automatically registered. So we need to get people to the polls to vote, but we also need to have elected officials that's giving them a reason to go to the polls and vote.
I agree.
Or candidates to give them a reason to go to the polls and vote.
I mean, I also had a prolonged conversation with a staunch conservative today, and I was talking about, you know, because he was talking about he was very frustrated with the way things are going in the country. And he's like, hey man, people are starting to get fed up, man. We probably need a civil war to fix whatever's fix what's going on. And I was like, I feel like it's misdirected anger, right? Because how could you need a civil war when we agree on too much of the politics? The only thing that Democrats and Republicans disagree with so vehemently really is Roe versus Wade, abortion, and gun, and not even gun rights. It's mostly abortion, you know, and we can start begging to differ on a whole lot of other stuff. When it comes to gun legislation, I asked him straight up. I was like, hey, just give me an honest answer. Do you have a problem with universal background checks on firearms? He's like, no, not at all. Not at all. I'm like, neither do Democrats, neither do liberals, neither do you know, centrist Democrats and your furthest left progressives. Everyone has the same idea. Let's have some basic controls over who has a firearm in their hand. We're just going to say if they have violent offenses, if they have, you know, mental health issues, and that's a good conversation to have too. Is it I needed to talk to someone because I suffer from postpartum depression? I can't have a firearm and protect my family now. We can go in depth with that conversation, right? Because just saying mental health issues is a broad brush to sweep, you know, across a lot of people, right? But we all understand that there needs to be some controls. I do it with driving, right? You guys can't come and drive my truck. If you guys drive my truck, you're going to kill somebody, if not yourself. You need to be checked. I need to make sure that you don't have DUIs.
Wait a minute, Kevin, I just can't roll up in the truck and start driving.
Nah, bro.
I'd like to give it a shot too. I've always wanted to drive a big truck.
I mean, I'm thinking it can't be that bad.
I mean, it's got to be like,
happen, right?
It's got gears. It's got a wheel. I mean, how hard can it be?
Yeah, gas.
And I want 3 trailers on the back of mine.
Yeah, some weight back there. See if we can get going real fast. That would be fun. I've always wanted to go to the side of the mountain like they do. Huh?
Hey man, I'm gonna say this: whoever I'm driving for, they better have a lot of insurance.
You know, and it takes years and years and years to become comfortable with it.
Yes.
So, you know, and I had this conversation when I did an episode by myself. I was talking about, you know, all weapons aren't the same. If you want a little pea shooter, you want a 22, you want 9mm, we can have that conversation. You want a war style weapon like something that's designed to pierce body armor, something that's designed to go through bulletproof vests in walls and car doors and whatnot, not for hunting. That's not a protect your household weapon. So maybe you need an extra certification. Maybe you need an extra background check for that, or some sort of extra evaluation. In reality, are you really going to pull out a weapon of war when someone's like picking at your front door, and be effective at it? Mm-hmm. I don't know. The average person not. And also that would also should require an extra regimen of training to be done regularly, just the way they do the actual people that use weapons of war. Go to the Marines, you got to get certified on that stuff every so many months.
Police officers do too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's just required.
Rights. I agree with that. You're right. That's basic.
I'm cool with if you're trained, you're certified.
You have to be over 21 to one. I want to take everything you said and say you have to be 21, go through an extra level of training, and have to apply for a special license. And I think you should also require a certain amount of insurance to own those type of guns.
Yes,
because what ends up happening is if it accidentally go off or you shoot someone or something like that, I think families need to be compensated. If your kid steals your gun and goes off and does something that is out of the norm, there needs to be there needs to be accountability, and two, those families probably didn't prepare for that untimely death. They need the person who allowed that weapon to get into the hands of someone who wasn't ready should have some type of insurance to be able to cover the cost of the burials and to compensate those families.
I can't help but notice I didn't hear anybody on this podcast, and I believe we're all registered Democrats. I haven't heard anyone here say take away their guns.
No.
I haven't heard a Democrat just say we just don't want any guns. I think we need less guns than people in the country, though. maybe not more guns than there are people. That's kind of weird, right? That's weird to me.
I would love to see us get to a point where we feel like we don't need a gun to resolve our problems. I would love for us to get to a point where we're able to resolve issues without feeling like my reputation is based on how violently I treat you, or how violently I clap back at you, or how violently I have to do this in order to get likes on Facebook and to say a bunch of one-liners because you knocked somebody out that wasn't even ready for the punch.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I have a problem when I look at the senseless violence on social media, and there's more people trying. There was a guy falling off the train. More people trying to record him falling off the train than trying to help him and save his life.
Wow.
That's where we're at in society, and I have concerns about our level of humanity, putting race aside, just our basic level of humanity, where we're at in this country.
But see, they politicize everything. So the fact that you can break it down to humanity, that they don't want you to talk about the human portion of it. They want you to talk about the race portion of it. I'm talking about the people, the political pundits that make their money off of speaking on camera about these things. Because we're not monetized here, so we're doing it. We're doing this as a public service. We're volunteers, but and we're trying to change that. But at the same time, we can't have people. There's a shooting victim that I know of personally here in LA that was shot, and there were witnesses, and they just recorded instead of providing first aid. Those people should be locked up. If you're sitting there just videotaping someone and that needs first aid care, and you don't start doing chest depression or at least dial 911, you obviously didn't call 911. You're recording on your phone. You went live.
Wow,
right?
That's sad.
You should be locked up. Just my personal belief, but I thought there was a requirement to help.
There's no requirement to help.
Watch somebody die, right, and not be charged for anything.
Not even call 911. Isn't that illegal? Not to report a shooting?
No. If you are a person that is considered to be a first responder, that's different. If you are a person that have reporting requirements as part of your job, teachers are included in this. that's different. The everyday person can, as long as there wasn't the ones that caused the crime or anything like that, there's really not a whole lot legally you can do to that person. You just
And family members had to watch the videos of their family member passing and know that those people could have but didn't. It's torturous.
That's true though.
I mean, it's one of them things where I personally feel our kids are learning from this behavior. But once again, we laugh and joke about it. How many times we see people play out the Friday scene where you got knocked the F out? How many times we see that, and it's a real situation, not something that's in the movie. Oh, you got knocked the F out. Oh, you got knocked the F out. While this person is laying on the ground hurt, no one is trying to lift the person up, get that person some ice, making sure they're able to breathe. They're more so want to play out this scene because they're living in a fantasy world and not realizing there's real emotional and physical trauma that's happening at that moment.
Traumatic brain injury also.
It's everything.
But do you think that's mostly in our community though? I believe that our community has a lot of fantasy type delusional views that's been forced up on us by those that were in control. There's a lot of things we believe that it's not factual, and then we end up in the bottom of the stick, which is why we're the lowest ones and the most poverty per percentage of group in America. I think we believe in delusional things. A lot of us believe we're in middle class and we're in poverty or close to it. What is it, $12,000 or $8,000? That's poverty. I know a lot of people in Section 8 will swear to God they're in middle class and they have food stamps and they're in poverty. So I think that delusional or that fantasy world is more prevalent in our community than in most. I could be wrong, but that's my thoughts.
I would probably take a different spin and say that it may be middle class from where they were before. And I don't know where a person has come from. But if you live in your car for 3 years and you get food stamps and you're staying in an apartment in Section 8, that may be middle class to you because you were living in your car for 3 years. Everything to me, and if you lived in the rural South where you've been staying in the shack, there was a film about this place called Bayview, Virginia. As late as like 1995, they were still using the bathroom in the outhouse. Wow. and still living in what you call old school shotgun shacks, for those who know what those are. Mm-hmm. And Ed Bradley was the one that did the story on this community. And they were able to get all these different nonprofits in the state of Virginia to come aboard and build these people real homes. Now, you take that shack to these homes, although they're still getting financial assistance, that's middle class to them because they're going from a steel shack that barely had electricity to a home. One of the people that said, wow, we got running water. We don't have to go out and get a bucket. This is in 1995.
So middle class is a state of mind, is what you're saying. Not really.
What I'm saying is, if you've come from extreme poverty or extreme circumstances, 10 people in a 1-bedroom apartment may be middle class too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, it may not meet our state financial standards of what middle class is. It may not meet that, but for them, it's a much better place than where they're at.
And talk about the politicization of it. You're talking about the struggle. You're talking about the human experience of it. And a political pundit would say welfare, Section 8, food stamps, and you would say they didn't have running water. Now they do. Now they have insulation in their walls. They don't freeze in the wintertime. Now they don't go to the bathroom outside. Now they have a better human experience, right? Same thing like back to the point of conservatives and liberals having a lot of things in common that they agree with. You know, we can talk about climate change and disagree about it. We can talk about, you know, the problems with carbon emissions, but we can never disagree about straight pollution. You can't tell me you enjoy breathing the air downtown LA, downtown Houston, downtown Chicago, downtown New York. You can't tell me you enjoy breathing that air. And you can't tell me that it's a coincidence that all the kids out there get asthma, right? Or that the asthma rates are so much higher per capita near those high population, high car areas and around those refineries. It's pollution, at least. You know, we can disagree about the politicized climate change thing, but the numbers, it is hotter every summer, right? The ocean is hotter every year. The ice caps melt more every year. We can call it whatever we want to call it and disagree on the bigger picture thing, but I can't breathe the air as much as I used to be able to breathe the air, period.
And you moved to LA?
Colorado was pretty bad already with the smog.
Yeah, most definitely. But I spend most of my day outside of the area. But when I drive back to town, you can see the brown haze over. Hey, look, I didn't come out there with a sniffer. You're like, I don't know, let's check this area. Let's see what's going on.
You ain't got to check there. You can see it.
Yeah, you can see it.
I remember I was from LA. I'll be driving home from Long Beach, and you know, Long Beach gets this nice wind that sometimes clear the air. Yeah, man, I get on that 110 freeway. I'm coming down. I can tell you exactly where I began to see it as soon as I get to Redondo Boulevard.
Are you from California?
You muted out right then. You said when?
I said when you get to Redondo Boulevard off the 110, then you got Rosecrans, then you got El Segundo, then you got Imperial. When you get to Redondo Boulevard and you coming up on Rosecrans, right before you get to the 105, you see that brown haze over the downtown area. Yeah, I'm originally from Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
So he was talking about Leimert Park. He talking about some of my old stomping grounds.
Okay. Huh.
And
you also like LA better than Denver?
Excuse me?
You both like LA better than Denver?
Well, I've been here for 18 years, so almost 20 this July. So when July 1st hit, it'd be 20 years. So I think Colorado has been home. So I love visiting Los Angeles. I think California is an amazing state. Los Angeles is amazing, but this has been home for the past 20 years.
I'm gonna say apples and oranges, Cleveland. I never said, do I like Aurora better than Houston? You know, like there's a home is where the heart is thing. Like I can't change where I was born. You know, the streets where I learned how to drive, you know, where I got my CDL, spent 10 solid years. I know every single road in the greater metro Houston area, like around it and everything like that. Like you could just, at least in my heyday, you could give me any address and I could tell you every single way to get there, right? Yeah. I could tell you by the zip code, by the name of the street, if it's northwest, east, or south. You know, I'll tell you, oh no, that's below 59 South. That's before Beltway 8. You know, I'll tell you every last thing about it. So it's kind of there's things you love to hate and things you hate to love. You know, different parts of town with my people, I love it. And different parts of town with my people, I hate it. But it's all home. It's like, who doesn't love home? Then you talk about Denver or Aurora. You know, Aurora became like very much so like a second home to me. Very much so like a second home. And, you know, now I'm starting to, dude, look, the fact that I hate this parking, that's kind of a home thing. Like, man, there's parking. Ooh, wee. But no one else can talk to me about parking. You know?
Where are you from, Cleveland?
I'm from Colorado.
You born and raised in, what high school did you go to?
Native. You know, I grew up in Commerce City. I went to Adams City High School. But I wanted the Black experience a couple times. I went to George Washington. And I went to Hamilton, but when you come from that experience and you go into a different world, it is a different world. So I ended up going back. Couldn't make it. So
wow. I can only imagine what that experience was like. Because most people who I know that are born and raised here, they talk about DPS or they talk about Aurora or they talk about Cherokee. You're the first person who I heard talk about Commerce City or being in that Adams County area.
You know, interesting, true story. So when I went to George Washington for the year I went there, right, I got like A's, all A's, right? All A's. I go back to Commerce City, Adams County. My grades went to C's and D's. I learned more from Adams County, but I got A's on a roll at George Washington. So I think I was just getting an A because of attendance and I wasn't causing any problems. There was sometimes I remember I just straight up left class and came back to the end of it. But because I wasn't causing any problems, I still got an A. So I'm sure there's a lot of kids at DPS that are getting totally ripped off for whatever education system they call at DPS. And it is another true story. I had a client who was graduated from manual back in the day. And when he was purchasing his properties and he was able to buy a couple of them, he could not read or write. He really signed with an X. Isn't that interesting? Denver public system. He graduated sometime in the.
But I'm gonna say this: you got sisters like Tamara Roan, who was a teacher in DPS. Everybody who I know, man, Tamara Roan sent people out of East High School to Harvard, to Yale, to HBCUs.
Wow.
So, one, I do think we need to improve our education system, especially when it comes to Black kids.
Yes.
At the same time, there are some teachers and some educators out there doing, and there's a brother named Jasper Armstrong, who we're going to try to get on the show in the future, running a leadership program in Cherry Creek School District. And these kids develop their own policies on how they're going to be governed and how they want staff to engage them and how they respond if there's a request for them to put their phone down and things of this nature. And because they were the ones that established the policies, they buy into them. They also get a stipend and learn how to they're in this leadership, and this is a school district program. They get a stipend and they get high school credit for their classes. And it's for middle school and high school students. And it's a new model. It's a
pilot.
A pilot, and they're doing amazing work.
That's amazing. Cherry Creek schools.
Cherry Creek schools, but DPS is doing so. I like the brother. I forget his name. That's the new superintendent over in DPS. Okay. Dr. Morrell. I think it's Dr. Monreal or Dr. Morrell. Real good brother, young brother doing some good work out of New York. But believe it or not, I coming from where I came from, where schools are that Kevin is seeing now, some of our worst schools, people wish. Is that fair to say? Some of the schools in LA got straight up gates around the whole.
Wow. Lord. Lord. Prison fences. Fences.
You've seen them.
Yes. Inglewood High School. Right here by my house. Inglewood High School. Yeah, prison. It probably it's in the same level of repair as it was when you left. The awnings, the walkways between classes are sagging. I was claustrophobic underneath them. You know, it's in disrepair. The library, it was open, like the door wasn't locked, lights off, no librarian in sight.
Wow.
You know, no students utilizing it. You know, I think it was more of we hang out in front of the library as opposed to, hey, there's actually books in here. Someone had to go hit the switch to turn the lights on in the middle of the school day. But
let me say this. My principal name was Screaming Freeman. And Dr. Freeman didn't play. If you wasn't in class, he walked around with that bullhorn, and he was older, but everybody respected him. Mr. Brownlee was the assistant principal. Both them brothers didn't play. You took your butt to class.
Hey.
You took your butt to class. Now, when I moved to Colorado and saw the conditions of the worst schools in Colorado, I said they could be great schools in some parts of the
perspective.
I had to say it.
Everything's perspective. You're right.
And then when you talk about that learning piece, I don't know if y'all heard about in Louisiana, there was a school that was having all these fights, and the fathers volunteered at the school. All the fights stopped.
That's a thing, man. You know, and that's something that people don't, I'm not going to say don't think about, but they don't attribute to the community engagement. You know, in Aurora Public Schools, we did a ton of stuff to try to spur community engagement. Here's the thing. The economy has echoes in the school district. If parents got to work 2 jobs out of town, they can't come to the school and be engaged and volunteer. Yeah. You know, you go to your exclusive charter school that has great graduation rates and great achievement and great growth, all these great numbers, wonderful. The students are getting great education. And guess what? When they need snacks and they need whatever, there's extra snacks, there's extra food. When they need a program or they need, you know, chaperone for a field trip, an educational field trip, you know, they got parents that are there with extra funding. I'm not saying that's the case with every charter, and that's not the case with any public schools. But in public schools, we deal with a higher cost per pupil than your standard charter school, right?
Agree.
They're publicly funded, but then they can ask for more. Legally speaking, if you give money to a charter, it goes to the school and is distributed by the board via their budgetary oversight. If you give to a public school, it goes to the district and gets put into the district ledger and is split up between however many schools and however many students there is equitably, because you can't just give funding to you know, Aurora Central. You can't just go, here's $500,000 Aurora Central. I just want to encapsulate you with money. You can't do that, because the kids going to South, going to, you know, going to Raintree, going, you know, all these other schools, they're gonna be like, hey, what about us?
I'm passionate about education. I am extraordinarily optimistic that we have some amazing students in the city of Aurora. Now, I'm isolated to the city of Aurora.
Right.
I think APS is doing the best it can, and I think there's some definitely some room for growth. I work in Cherry Creek School District, and they're recognizing that room for growth, which is why they started this leadership program. And I think that our kids need to be part of the answer. When I was on Brother Jeff's shows, I think we need to have youth elections, and we have a youth that's represented, that's elected by their peers on the school board and on city council. And that person, the requirement should be that person is either that's going into their junior year or their senior year. And while they're going into their junior or senior year, they go through they make sure that they meet the requirements. And in meeting the requirements, that person can serve on that committee for 1 year and be a voice for the students.
Yeah, and then have a multi-tiered committees of different grade levels. Say, you know, I have a 10th grade committee that sends a quarterly report, you know, but has, say, a monthly meeting that representative would have to attend. Then you have a 9th grade quarterly report and monthly meeting that student representative would attend, and then you know, amalgamate all that stuff together, and then you come to our monthly meeting, you know, at the school board, and have a vote, have a policy vote. You know, there's any kinds of ways that we can make it happen. But, you know, I believe we voted in favor of starting that process in Aurora Public Schools. But after we changed constituency of the board, a lot of things were starting to get undone. You know, we also want to have board members get compensated, you know, and
I think didn't that pass where there's an option?
It's legal already, man. Like, it became legal to do it. And instead of just saying, okay, from here forth, you know, after this term, I was saying, hey, after I'm out, make it legal, you know, or make it a policy that now we're going to pay the board members and just say X amount of dollars, you know, under the legal limit, and do it as such. And they want to say we have to define what board work is. It has to be this many hours per day, per week, and then it can only be this much, and not including travel. And you want to put let's start getting people paid, make it less financially or economically prohibitive to be on the board first, and then let's iron out the details as we go. You know, because you can't tell me what's the issues. You ain't done it before.
I can't.
No argue. Board member makes money. Is that what you're saying?
No, it was all volunteer work, Cleveland.
It's volunteer work, and there's hours out of your day that you have no compensation. So in most cases, how are you really getting the very best when you're not giving them any money?
You're rich. You have to. I'm not trying to talk smack. Y'all know I was a truck driver, and y'all know I had to miss out on hours to go to board meetings, right? So it cost me approximately the equivalent of a car note, at least my car note. I had an Acura. It cost me over $400 a month. My membership on the board cost me over $400 a month in overtime. All right,
So
it cost me sleep. I lost money on the board, and it cost me sleep. It made it sometimes unsafe for me to go to work. Sometimes I had to call in just because the board meeting went too long, and I'm supposed to go to work, you know. And meanwhile, they're losing their mind. They're over there. They woke up at 7 a.m. I'm like, guys, I went to work last night. I worked all morning, and I just got off before I came here, and I'm keeping my attitude together. And y'all are falling apart because it's 10:30 at night. And I'm like, I'm up for over 24 hours. I put some Visine in so I look presentable for the board meeting, and these people are having hissy fits. But look, everyone deals with things differently. The main story is it needs to not be economically prohibitive and help more regular people that were like me be able to get on the board than just someone that's willing to tough it out and stay up 24 hours to make it to the meeting. Let it be. Yeah, I can cut a few hours. I can afford it because guess what? They give me $400 a month to be on the board. Just a little something, just a little break a little bread. I got to miss a little bit of work. It's okay. That's it.
Well, let me ask this question because I know we're running about that time. But let me ask this question. We just celebrated Juneteenth. Juneteenth is now a national holiday, state holiday, all that great stuff. City of Aurora actually made it a holiday before the state.
There we go.
If you had your wish list, or if you wanted to see something changed in the Black community, 12 months from now, when we're celebrating Juneteenth next year, what would you hope it would be that changes in the Black community?
One thing.
It can be more than one, but one. Let's try to stick with one.
I think I would want to have more fathers involved in their children's lives.
Okay.
Too many single
houses. I like that too.
And then they're not even involved. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of reasons, but what is it? 80% of the Black kids are raised by single parents. That's sad, man. That shouldn't exist. Some people don't even know who their father is. That's the one thing I would want.
Okay. And Kevin, is that yours, Kevin?
No, it's not. It's not mine. But I think it would be kind of a. I think that's a symptom of the problem. I think the problem is economic injustice. I think I would like to see hard policies with teeth for economic justice. Talking about a realistic minimum wage, a real living minimum wage, right? Some sort of regulations on housing, rent. Not rent control, but just realistic rent regulations where you're not going to jump the market. Hey, I'm out here in renter's hell. Okay. but Aurora's getting bad enough, right? And the pricing of homes, it's hard on buyers right now because of this market, but you have to start doing things at the city level, at the smallest level of government possible, because they're more nimble. So let's talk about some economic policies that help, the more economically challenged. And those tend to be communities of color, in which highly includes the Black community. And so I think that would cause more parents to be in the household and leave more free time for space, because that's also a myth that Black fathers spend less time with their children than their white counterpart. At least with the white counterpart, because by numbers we're only more non-married. We're not necessarily spending less time per se. So it's how they want to look at it. It's kind of how the narrative is painted, but when people actually sit down and dig down into it, really we're just getting locked up on, disproportionately, and we're getting iced out from jobs disproportionately.
That's
I
true.
want some of that to be changed.
I like what Brother King said. But I got to say, just 2 weeks ago, I was the MC for a father-daughter tea.
That's awesome. I would love to go.
And it was at the Dayton Opportunity Center. And this organization called Black United Parents or something like that. It's a sister that runs it. She does amazing work. And this is my second time being...
Cherie? Is that her name?
Yeah. My second time being the MC for that event. And there's a part where the fathers read a letter to the daughters. And I would say there's a lot of fathers who are out there doing amazing work, but because we're not able to figure out how to share that message, it impacts future fathers who may not have been raised with a father to understand what fatherhood is. So I like what Brother King said, but at the same time, I saw fathers step up to the plate, read letters, and then they have a father-daughter dance. And then my fraternity brothers did something similar. The Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated just 2 weeks before that event, where you brought your daughter. It was a father-daughter dance, and they had about a couple of hundred people there.
Wow.
Nice.
So we just need to get that message out more so that future fathers will know this is what your role is. The one thing I would change, or not that I would change, I would love to see implemented or enhanced, is how do we problem solve with each other without it turning to violence?
That's true.
I'm jumping on this personal campaign of love, compassion, action. And if we can just have a little bit of love, a little bit of compassion and grace, and then take an action that makes sense, I think that could do a world of good for our community.
Yep. I talked about extending grace today. You know, people were talking. One of my students was talking about how they felt aggrieved by the program, how something didn't work out for them, and they were like, I don't know. There was, but I talked about like, look, I got you out here. I'm teaching you something, and you're going to make a mistake, and I have to extend that grace. You know, people are running this program. There's certain situations that they're dealing with that's not their nominal operate. You know, when you get nervous and you can't perform, that's not because that you don't have that skill. That's because you need a little grace to make it to that next moment. And a lot of these people out here aren't equipped with these tools yet. You know, when they're still learning, and some of it is just let these people practice. Sometimes I tell dudes like, hey, stop telling them what to do. Just let them practice. If they keep making the same mistake, they're going to think about that, and they're going to come back, you know, more prepared the next time. And some of these people out here in society need that opportunity, that grace, to be like, today did not go well, right? Sometimes it takes a year. They were like, man, last year I was tripping, right? And you know, we're going to do better. And some of those people come around, you know. So I agree with you. Love, compassion, grace. We're all about that here on DBT.
Hey, that's why I love DBT. We can disagree, and next thing you know, we're going to lunch, or we done made some other people mad, and we're going to go have coffee with them. Blasting us on Facebook and probably saying we ain't worth crap. You know, it is what it is. But I do think even people who have views that are extremely different from mine, I want to be able, use this day as an opportunity to educate, for education on history, generational wisdom, and wealth. I love it. Sure. I love it. That name looked familiar. I love it.
Put a ring on that. When you like it, put a ring on it. See, that's a ring on it.
Actually,
that's my better half.
He has a pretty good standing in the community. There's a lot of people that watch DBT that you would just never know. They probably don't even like or share or anything, but they watch it. And you know, when you mention DBT, like I have in the community, there's always a positive feeling behind it. And the founding members, everyone seems to know you guys. You guys are doing a great job in the community, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on as a co-host. You know, you're always welcome here with DBT as part of the team. And you know, whenever you want to talk about something, or you got someone you want to interview, or you know, you want to contribute in any way, Omar, I appreciate you for coming and blessing us with your presence again and dropping some wisdom. You know,
just follow y'all, bruh.
And look, I think, you know, and I'll just take my bias. I think this is the dope black thought of the day. Everybody use this day as an opportunity to educate on history, educate the generational wisdom and wealth, you know. And with that being said, I just want to go ahead and say thank you everybody for tuning in. DBT, you know, we're always here every Thursday live. You know what? Next week we're gonna go live on Wednesday. I have a guest. Yes. Nearby where I live, there's a Social Justice Learning Institute. We're going to have someone from there, and we're going to talk about the programs they're doing. They're doling out funding, grants for different organizations, and they're doing a lot of wonderful things in the community. And I want to bring some of them out to have a conversation about what's going on in the Black community, especially post Juneteenth. And I think they have a new program they're dropping. So once again, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
for watching.
All right.
DBT out.
Out.
Peace.
What is love? Is the drug. Take to hit back in it. Calling me an Uber just to hit back in it. Use the cash app like pay I send. Is it really worth the wait? I don't get it.